addition to process management, something else that a retail strategy analyst at Revlon would do is essentially responsible for analyzing and reporting on marketing executions at retail. So I've listed a few examples there as well, but I can give you further examples. So for example, my role involves making sure that we mitigate our returns risk. So twice a year in the cosmetics industry, we do wall resets. Anyone know what wall resets are? Yes.
You do all your fixtures and product placements?
Correct. So planograms are essentially where our products, how our products are marketed on the shelf. Those are reset every 2 years. Twice every year. So once in the summer and once in the winter, around that time. And we basically take away all our discontinued products from the wall and put in the new launches. So twice a year is really when you're going to see cosmetics companies coming out with all of these new launches, and that's when the beauty bloggers start going, hey, you know, these new launches at retail, we're going to check them out.
Do you pay beauty bloggers?
Both. So there's paid and there's not paid.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can send out samples. They may choose to review, they may choose not to. And then there are some influencers with whom we actually pay to work with to exclusively review our content.
And how do you decide who's good enough influencer for you? Because there are a lot of people who are writing about beauty.
Yeah.
And is it about the amount of followers, basically? Is it who has most exposure by PR?
Yes. So I'm not a brand marketing expert, and this is a PR related, but it's definitely reach, and then also how well you resonate with the product and what the marketing and PR objectives are for that period.
Okay.
So let's say recently there's been a lot of talk about shade extensions in foundation.
Oh.
So a lot of companies now are coming out with 35 shades, 40 shades after the whole Fenty, I would call it a Fenty revolution. So your target market for influencers would then broaden. You want
Right.
to target more diverse influencers, right, to review your product. But yes, your reach definitely plays a part in
Okay.
being sent samples. I know like Amazon also has a program, I think it's their Vine program, where they'll send out samples for I don't know how they select their influencers and reviewers, but they also send out sample boxes for people too.
And do you guys sell through Amazon as well, directly to the consumer?
Yes, and I'll get to that.
Okay, sorry.
It's actually part of my case study.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, so that's sort of what we do. Inventory depletion strategy. So I'll give you an example of what an inventory depletion strategy would look like and how, as a retail strategy analyst, I'm involved in that process. So an inventory depletion strategy would be used when twice a year our walls are reset, and all of a sudden you have this problem of, okay, I have like thousands or millions of dollars of product that I need to take back from my stores. I know 6 months in advance which products I'm going to discontinue. So what can I do now to make sure that the product that's coming back into my warehouse is depleted as much as possible? So that's where our team will work with our marketing partners, will work with our supply and demand partners, and with our sales team to understand what levers we can pull to deplete inventory. So a recent execution I did was using instantly redeemable coupons. So we worked through the costing of that, the ROI of that. Is it more beneficial to execute these coupons because there's printing costs involved, there's labor costs involved to execute things like this? Is it more beneficial to apply this, or is it more beneficial to take the returns? Those are some of the things we think about from a retail strategy perspective. Or we'll do launch or no launch recommendations. So for example, if we are launching a new foundation, but in order to put that foundation into our walls, we have to take something else out. Is it worth it in terms of sales? Are we going to get enough sales to basically cover the product that's being discontinued? Or is it more beneficial to let that stay at wall? So those are the kind of decisions that we make. Another thing I actively look at is competition. So what is it that our competition is doing, and is that driving our sales up or down? So for example, I don't mean to name drop any brands, but I'll use it as an example. Maybelline puts out an ad for their lipstick for $5.99. We don't flyer that week. What's that probably going to do to our sales? Right? It's going to go down. The sales are going to drop. So looking at things like that, or in-store display execution and how that impacts how that impacts our performance. So for example, how many of you have been exposed to or know what pre-packed displays are? I had no idea when I started.
Pre-pack is, you're talking about the unit that comes up in the middle of the aisle.
Yes.
And usually Watt or Barrows or one of those companies work with you on that.
Yes, yes, and they're cardboard, they're not
Yeah.
permanent, they're temporary, they stay on for like 3 or 4 weeks. And you do, right? Did you work in the cosmetics industry?
Not the cosmetics industry, but I was a category specialist at Staples.
Yes, so you would know very well. So I remember the first time when I sat with my very first manager, I think this was my very first day, and he went on and on about pre-packed displays, and I was looking at his face going, I don't know what this is. But yes, so pre-packed displays, so I monitor the execution of our pre-packed displays, pre and post analysis, so helping our marketing team decide what products go onto the display. Then after the display gets put into retail, it's on counter usually for like a 4-week period. I monitor the sell-through of our product. So was it effective? And then we kind of do like, okay, should we do this again or should we not do this again kind of recommendation just based on sell-through of the pre-pack. So that's sort of what a retail strategy analyst does. Yes.
Do stores like Shoppers Drug Mart have a limit for how many pre-packed displays they can have? So like, are you competing against other cosmetic brands?
Yes, that's a very good question. So yes, there's always limited space, and that's why we are now being forced to be very agile and quick in the way that internal decisions are being made, because if your company or any company is taking, let's say, a month to 2 months to make a go or no-go decision. So for example, your Shoppers account manager comes to you, says, hey, Shoppers has this one space in one of their cubbies for us to feature a display for 4 weeks in 1,000 stores. But we need to get back to them within a week, because if we don't take that spot, Maybelline's gonna take it, L'Oreal's gonna take it, someone else, a cookie and cracker business is gonna take it, right? So that's why we have to make these decisions very fast and execute things even faster to get that space, because everyone's fighting for the real estate. So in a nutshell, what I wanted to say is retail is definitely more than just sales. When I first graduated, did not know this. Honestly thought I was going to be sitting in front of a buyer, negotiating and throwing numbers around. But that was not the case. There's a lot more that happens in the back end to make the sale happen in the front end. And I was very privileged to have learned this very early on in my career, just because I moved around so much in my company. And I got to learn about, I guess, the internal works that not a lot of people get exposed to within the first couple of years. So I threw this flow chart here, but you've probably seen this a million times in your courses. I left out the other functions in retail, like accounting, finance. I left those out. I just focused on marketing and sales because I wanted you to see where my role sits from that perspective. So I'm not in marketing and I'm not in sales. And every time I try to explain this to people, they go, okay, I don't understand. So, or actually, every time I tell someone I work at Revlon, they look at me and they say, oh, so you sell lipsticks for a living. And I'm like, not quite. I'm in the business of selling lipsticks, but I don't work at the register. And so it's very hard to explain to people what you do when you're in the retail industry. So I work directly in between marketing and sales. So from product development to the point that it gets sold into our customer, everything in between is sort of what my team and I work on.
Can I
So
ask
the-
a question?
Yes.
Who decides on these are the colors of the fall? You know, and you walk by Shoppers Drug Mart, all of a sudden you see
Yeah.
some units are in the middle,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're telling you that these are the colors of the fall.
Yes.
And who makes that decision up?
So those decisions are made by people called trend experts. Every company either hires them or outsources them. A lot of time in global companies, most global companies are headquartered in the US. That's where those decisions arise from.
Okay.
So they are in the marketing department, but they are specialized only to forecast out trends. So they'll know 6 months out to 1 year out to maybe even longer in different, so if you're in like the fashion and apparel industry, they'll probably know 3 years out. I don't know the timings, but like in the cosmetics industry, we're usually working with a 1 year period.
Okay.
So they'll know what's coming. Yes. So that's a really interesting question. It actually came up at work not too long ago. But yeah, so as a part of our customer planning and execution department, or in other words, trade marketing, what we do is customer marketing, not consumer marketing. We do trade performance management, so the money that we have to spend on trade activities such as flyers, in-store support, how is that allocated? We work on demand and supply. So let's say we are launching something in January 2019, and due to some manufacturing issues, that product can't make it into our warehouse in time. It happens more often than you think in almost every industry where things go wrong. How do you manage that supply that you have with the demand that's coming in? So let's say Shoppers Drug Mart places purchase orders for 1,000 units of this product, but you only have 500 coming in. How do you manage those expectations? So those are the kind of scenarios that we work on. I also manage retail coverage planning and execution. So in cosmetics, we have a team of what we call retail reps and merchandisers that are responsible for making sure that our walls look 100% to standard at all time. So if you walk into a Shoppers Drug Mart and you notice that the wall is looking a little bit dirty because people like to swatch lipsticks everywhere and nail polishes everywhere, our retail team is essentially responsible for making sure it looks nice and clean. They'll change out the fixtures, or they'll wipe things down, or if they notice that, you know, a customer's walking and they're trying to, I don't know, swatch a foundation and they accidentally break a piece of the fixture, they're responsible for ordering those fixtures. So we have a team, we have a budget. My team and I basically manage that budget and how it's allocated. So that's another event. And I also do post-event analysis, which we've discussed, like the coupon execution, flyer execution, is it worth doing again, is it not, what was our sales lift, so those kind of post-event analysis, and master data maintenance. So master data maintenance is probably the most mundane part of my work, but it needs to be done, and that comes with every role. Yeah, the one thing I especially, sorry,
I have a question.
yes.
For post-event analysis, do you also do like post-event analysis for like PR events? Like I remember a couple months ago there was like a lipstick event downtown. Like how would you measure
The
the
lip
success
policy.
of that? Yeah.
Yes, so that, because PR events a little bit, analyzed a little bit differently than like your typical flyer ads or things that you can attach a monetary value to, like a sales value to. So that's done by our PR team. So that doesn't come under my scope, but that is definitely like an ROI would be done on that. Yeah, just not, I can't speak to it too much because it's not something I do, but that's, yeah, it gets done. Did you attend the event? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay, so in a nutshell, I read a lot of Forbes articles. So this was an article that I felt resonated with this lecture anyway, but Moving up in a lean organization. So you'll notice that now companies are becoming a lot more lean than they used to. There's not as many roles, and in the role that you have, you're expected to go above and beyond what you do to move up or to be successful. My company is a prime example. 3 of the roles that I took on at Revlon never existed before. They were created specifically because I saw a gap in the business, or someone other than me saw a gap in the business and thought I fit the role, or I would be the person that could solve an issue. And that's really what you want to market yourself as. So these are 4 strategies for creating a fulfilling career path that I found on Forbes, but they're very, very applicable to the retail management world almost. Know yourself. So I know it's not easy to know, so when you're starting off in an entry-level role, you're usually sort of like the lost duck. You don't know what the business is about, you don't know how they operate, but knowing what your strengths are and leveraging them will take you far. Once you know yourself, you also need to know your weaknesses and strengthen or improve upon them. So I knew, for example, that I was very good I'm a systematic worker. I'm very good at optimizing, whether it be trackers or processes or things like that. But I wasn't very good at public speaking or building relationships. And I pushed myself. So I took on a role in sales knowing I wasn't good at that. But it helped me. It helped me strengthen that part of my weakness. So then 3, leverage and learn from others. So when you're just starting out in a company, you have the advantage of using the newbie card. Use it to your advantage. Ask as many questions as you need, talk to as many people as you need to get the answers that you need, and that will take you very, very far. It will not only help you sort of build your knowledge base of business operations and of your company, but it'll help you get noticed by other hiring managers in the company. And last but not least, own it. If you're put on a task, if you're put on a project, put everything you have into it. Manage it and take credit for your work. A lot of the time I see people that put in hours and hours of work in whatever project they're doing, and they don't take the credit for it. But it's what you need to move up. So just my 4 recommendations. Yes.
Taking these 4 things into account,
Yeah.
how would you describe the organizational culture at Revlon and integrating these 4 things into the workplace?
I can only speak for myself.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Your experience.
Yes, my experience. So these are the 4 things that helped me move up in my company as fast as I did. And these are the 4, so a lot of time when you start out and it's been like a year in your role and tasks start becoming more mundane because, it's like, okay, it's time for me to move on. You struggle with finding your next position in your company, which is why a lot of people now are starting to move around much more, in my opinion. But knowing my strengths, and not only knowing them, but talking to people and making my strengths known is what helped me move up as quickly as I did. So I would say that I can't really speak to the Revlon culture specifically, but it worked for me. Yeah, so you'll be noticed. If you do a very good job at almost anything, like if you do a really good job in school, your peers notice and your professors notice. So it works the same way when you're working in an organization.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you went for interviews,
Yes.
what was it about you that Revlon looked positively upon?
So I had a lot of different, I didn't have any CPG experience, but I had a lot of sales experience, customer service experience. I had a little bit of marketing experience, but I was also very, very involved in my school. So I think I participated in over 5 case studies, and I didn't just limit myself. So even though I took accounting up till like 3rd year, I never limited myself just to accounting. I always was involved in like sales competitions and finance competitions and marketing competitions. And the fact that I was willing to learn I was not willing to learn, but also understood kind of from a student level the different aspects of a business. They knew that in the future, if a change happened, they could take me and put me into any other department and I would be just as successful.
So with these students, they're coming out with a commerce degree.
Yeah.
So that should be strong as well when they sit down to interview, right?
Yes, yes. With your commerce degree, I don't know, but I think the focus is more on financial.
I think you guys did everything. They had everything.
Yeah. So your accounting and finance is definitely going to help you. Like, even though I didn't major in accounting, the electives that I took definitely helped me, maybe not in my interview process, but definitely in the work that I did. But any kind of internship and part-time experience that you have, use it to your strength. Some people say, oh, you know, I just worked part-time at McDonald's. But you have sales experience, you have customer service experience, right? So you have to talk about those in your interview. But yeah, and when a lot of hiring managers are looking for people to fill entry-level positions, they know that you don't have 2 to 3 years of retail management experience. They know that, and they're aware. But you have to show that you put an initiative and you're willing to learn.
Does Revlon recruit here at all? Do you know?
Revlon, I don't know if they said anything about Ryerson, but they're always hiring online on LinkedIn or on their website.
Okay.
Yeah, even with Schulich, they didn't come on campus, but they posted on the Schulich career portal, which is how I found my job.
Okay.
Yeah, initially. Use your career portal, guys. It's probably the best, especially for entry-level roles. Yeah. So I put together a little case study, which is very, very relevant in today's day and age with e-commerce. We're talking about e-commerce and the digital economy. And this is sort of a struggle that a lot of companies that operate in brick and mortar are facing today. So this is not about Revlon. It is a made-up scenario, and it is a made-up company. So I can go through the case study, and I'd ideally like if you could work